So you have an older Savage and want to set up an AICS style detachable box magazine for it. This video will go over how to set the height correctly so it feeds reliably. This is something a lot of people struggle with, including experienced gunsmiths. I'm also going to go into how you set your pillar height for bedding. I've had this Savage Model 10 in 308 for a long time. It started out as a cheap plastic stock gun I picked up off of Arms List for about 200 bucks 10 years ago as a project. The previous owner messed with the factory AccuTrigger and it was slipping off the Ciron cock, so I bought it as a project. I put on a 26-inch Criterion barrel from Northland Shooter Supply, a stock from Boyd's, a Sav 1 trigger from Rifle Basics, and I bedded it. I shot this gun for quite a few years with this setup, and it was reasonably accurate. I even shot it out as far as 1,000 yards with reasonable success on shooting steel. However, as I'm 6'7", the length of pull on it was always a bit short, and I struggled to shoot it as well as I thought it could shoot because I could never get comfortable behind the gun. My length of pull is about 15 inches, which is way too long for most people, but just about right for me. Last fall, I came up with the idea to make a new stock for this gun from a blank to fix this length of pull problem. I have to credit my buddy Joel for giving me the material for the blank. It has a nice, stiff, curly maple spine with some nice figured cherry for the outside. I will be putting a couple of videos on how I make this stock in the near future, so keep an eye out for it. You can see the nearly finalized setup here, but let's dive into how I got there. You can see there is a significant difference in the bottom metal from a stock Savage mag to the Atlasworx AICS DBM. There really isn't anything wrong with the 5-shot Savage mags. They do work fine, but I have a bunch of AICS mags and I decided I wanted to swap this rifle over to them. I did go with the Atlasworx DBM as it is a little nicer unit and does offer 2 positions for the mag release if you need to mess with the magazine height. Here I'm mocking up the action with nothing more than a couple of quarter 28 screws and a few jam nuts. This allows me to adjust the height of the action versus the DBM for good tuning for feeding. You simply turn the screws and nuts up and down until you get everything in alignment and the mags fit and feed correctly. Not shown, me taking about 50 measurements, getting it all lined up where I wanted it for alignment and mag height. You can see the bolt head just coming over the top of the mag in this photo. This is with me putting pressure on the bottom of the magazine, forcing it into its most upward position. If you base your adjustments with the mag hanging, when pressure gets put on the bottom of the mag, the bolt head will likely hit the back of the magazine when you close the bolt. In this photo, you can see the bolt engaging the round with the adjustments from the last photo. You have to ensure that the bolt has enough engagement on the round so that it will strip it from the magazine and not right over the top. You may think you can get away with less, but less is really less in this situation. Set your mag as high as you can so you can get a solid engagement on the round in any position, whether the magazine is pushed up or is just hanging in position. A couple of short clips here on differences in AICS mags. The first one is an MDT, and you can see that it rattles quite a bit in the DBM. The second is an American Rifle Company mag, and it doesn't rattle nearly as much due to it being just a little thicker. Unfortunately, ARC does not make these magazines anymore and doesn't plan on bringing them back. I also tested it with an accurate AICS mag, and it rattles as well. This isn't a fault of the Atlasworx DBM, as the Savage AICS DBM rattles as well. With either DBM, they do hold on to them securely, and they won't fall out while firing. If you're only looking to get the mag height set up correctly, then you can stop watching here. But if you want to see how I set up the pillars for bedding, then please continue watching. These are long rifle incorporated bedding pillars, quite possibly some of the coolest pillars I've seen, so I thought I'd use them for this stock. They do some very nice first-rate work, and I highly suggest you go check out their website. I didn't take any pictures of measuring or cutting the pillars down. Or maybe I did and I can't find them. Who knows? Long story short, I measured the length needed from the bottom of the action to the top of the DBM, cut them off, and fine tuned them with a file for height. Rear pillar needs that funky notch to allow for the Savage bolt release to work. Front one just gets cut off square. Don't mind the angle cut on the front one. My brain is easily confused some days, and I swap front for back when I was trimming them down. In the grand scheme, the pillar gets pretty much completely buried in the bedding, so it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the finished project, and this turned out pretty nicely. Now we need to get some screws to hold the action in. The LRI pillars use a quarter 28 5/16 shoulder screw to hold the action precisely in place. Not exactly a common screw you can get at the local hardware store, especially in stainless. Luckily, McMastercard has my credit card on file, and so they will be here in a couple of days. Before I make any modifications to the DBM, I needed to true up my drill press. I didn't want to screw up my DBM that I bought from Australia for $180 and a week shipping time. The DBM would need to be drilled to accept the larger screws. The rear is pretty easy, just center it up and drill it. The aluminum is easy to cut with the sharp bits. The front is a little bit different story as you're drilling a reversible bushing that makes this DBM work with a couple of different Savage action screw spacings. This bushing is also made from steel. A little tap magic, a sharp bit, good work holding and steady pressure, and it was done both front and back. I did have to drill the bushing pretty thin, and in the spirit of foreshadowing, this does come back to make me make a change. Next is taking a file and checking up the screw and taking a bit off the head so it will fit inside the DBM. Pretty standard stuff. And here it is, all assembled, looking sharp, ready to roll. I needed to remove the barrel from the action, and normally this is a piece of cake. I've done it a bunch of times. Put it in the vise, turn the barrel nut loose, and back off the action. Then disaster struck because some knucklehead wasn't paying attention and dropped the damn thing. The DBM took the brunt of it, so I got to pay the stupid tax and $180, and a week later I had a straight, unbent DBM directly from Australia. Remember how I said I needed to make a change? Well, this is it. I elected to go back to lamp rod for the pillars. It's reliable, cheap, and available locally. I just wasn't comfortable with the 1/32nd of an inch the screw would be torqued against with the LRI pillar setup. I also had to make a change in screws, just using a simple stainless steel button head, quarter 28. These aren't far off what Savage uses, but I wanted stainless, so McMastercard got a little bit more of my money. I ordered them long because they have to be cut to height anyway, so that makes it much more simple than the shoulder screws I needed for the LRI pillars. I already had my pillar heights from the LRI pillars, so that was easy enough. Put them in the vise, cut them off a little long. From there, I filed them flat into length. You can see that I'm holding the pillar in my calipers up to the light, which help determine if I have it filed flat and square. It looks pretty good. You could also use a nut over the pillar to file against as a guide, but I couldn't find one in my vast collection of random crap men keep in their garage because you might use it someday. Now I just needed to figure out total screw length by adding pillar length, action, and DBM thickness together. I did have some nuts to assist with cutting the screws off, so I used them to help me guide while both cutting and filing. A little Sharpie marker as Dicom helps determine where you need to file more pretty easily. I did have to remove the bit of the screw head to make it fit in the action. Same method as the other screw. Chuck it up, file it to size. On the rear pillar, I had to cut in a little notch for the Savage trigger release. Easy enough. Lastly, you can see that the screw is just a hair short. If I was a really good gunsmith, that screw would have been perfect height, but hey, I'm just a guy messing about in his garage, hardly a professional. Here's the finished product, all ready to go in the new stock that I haven't finished yet. Determining pillar height is crucial for setting up a stock for the inlet of the DBM, as it obviously determines the depth of your inlet cut. As far as will this DBM work in your Savage stock? Yes, but it will require inletting into it. It is just barely too big for my Boyd stock. However, I didn't feel like filing my old Boyd stock to make it fit, and I know the heights are not the same, requiring more work that I don't feel like doing. Besides, maybe I'll just use that stock someday, or not. Overall, the Atlasworx is a great option for updating an old Savage to use AICS mags. Stick around. I'm hoping to have the stock done in a couple of weeks, probably 3 more videos. One for the top inlet and barrel channel, another for shaping and bottom inlet, and lastly, one for bedding, finishing, and putting it all together. If you have questions or you just want to call me a hack, please leave comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on part 2.